Now the drivers of open data are actually appearing at quite an interesting time in the knowledge society landscape. VGI and user-generated content, as I showed that slide, the 60 seconds slide, they're generating a lot of that information. And I heard a really nice expression to explain the current generation of web users, the so what application people, that really people expect nice applications, nice interfaces, because they can get them for their sports, they can get them for their leisure, so why not get it for their government services? The economic downturn, certainly I've seen it from both the university side and the government side, that there is a doing more with less policy that's being undertaken now. There's less people in the research departments, there's less people in admin, there's less people in IT. So we're having to think of new ways of doing the same work with less people. And I suppose I'm doing a lot of research at the moment in VGI data quality, but I'm wondering, is it possible to quantify the influence of VGI in open data? I think there is some, to a certain aspect, some unfair scaremongering about VGI data quality. Mike Jackson and myself are looking at a possibility of VGI as a low-cost or a no-cost update intelligence to work with national mapping agencies who are also working under this idea now that we have to do more with less. And VGI and the national mapping agencies, they're no longer enemies. They're kind of midway to being friends now, that national mapping agencies are opening their data, VGI are looking for open data, so that there is a common goal there. So obviously the quality issue that comes in, Mucky Hackley's work, Alex Ziff's work in Heidelberg is showing that, okay, this VGI, there's something to it, it's of good value, it's of good quality. Now part of my work is to kind of show the opposite, but not to stamp on VGI, but rather to say, okay, there are issues here that we need to get right. For example, Highgate Cemetery in London, my argument here is that the cemetery is quite small, but the polygon is a little bit too large to represent that. There's also a bit of disagreement from different users on which tags. So how this data should be marked up. Other examples of users fighting over what the names of roads should be. So I like the example from Scotland here where we get every possible regular expression variation on Phoenix Crescent. An example from Germany, a road that's under construction, and there's user 7010 seems intent on either disrupting things or ensuring that this is a trunk road. So one of the things that I'm saying to VGI is we need to sort out these kind of problems. Does it need a Wikipedia layer of administration or moderation on top? And it's that very model that it works in that gives those challenges. So maybe if government is slow to respond to data needs, can we create the crowd to do it? And what kind of contribution can the crowd make? So just to finish up, basically the open data revolution, I feel, needs little acorns and the large oaks to be successful. I think the universities and colleges, certainly in Ireland, are opening in terms of e-print libraries, etc. The research institutions are being dictated to by the funding agencies. The funding agencies then are over on the big oaks, need to say, okay, we want your data and information when you're finished. And the government agencies obviously straddle both those kind of size organisations. And Hanif essentially read this slide for you. Essentially it's not free. EPA have to pay me a modest salary, and they have to maintain the IT infrastructure and other things like that. I give about 15 presentations to universities a year on just their data and their data management. So that has to be paid for. There's the administration of the whole system. But essentially, I think a nice quotation is that we need to put people before other stuff. That there is a bigger goal to this, and it could be to solve real problems in the real world. What should be avoided? I think we should start with low-hanging fruit. It's no point trying to build the utopian model for open access in an institution. I think you should, like EPA have done, they've opened up air quality first, greenhouse gases coming next, drinking water is on the way. So it's a slow process, but rather than opening everything at the one time. I think there's a couple of bridge builders needed here, because we have competing, but also possible people who can combine. We have the legislation people, we have the government institutions, academia, the user communities who may not be in the science or academic community, the linked data people, which I'll give a slide on at the moment, and then VGI. How do we get someone in the middle? Do we create a fully connected graph between these? And linked data, I'm starting to dabble with linked data myself. My feeling at the moment is that it's just the two guys here in most organisations that know about it. And that's the problem at the moment, that it's a mysterious object to other people. They can click on DPpedia, open up a page with beautifully marked up, but it scares them. So how do we prevent that happening, that it becomes a skill known to a few, when we still operate in a society where CSV files are created incorrectly, XML is still a mystery, and Excel is still Excel 2007 and beforehand is still almost a standard for data exchange. The background there is, if we're going to scramble eggs, we're going to have to break a few of them to do that. And I think massaging egos is something that DPA call it, that these data dinosaurs often have to be softly spoken to ensure that their data will come back to the EPA in some usable type of format. There's obviously no direct financial reward for people doing this. So people are funded in a research program, but they're not funded X% for actually opening their data at the end. So how do you get somebody to do something, give something away for free, And maybe Tim Berners-Lee's idea of everybody likes to get a star, and I think one big star for making anything available, down to the World Cup final of 5 stars if you get everything open and in linked data format. The nice thing is that things are changing. If you look here, that the government have decided to move back on and go back grovelling to the sandal-wearing open source community in a couple of years' time in terms of, and this is simply coming out, there is no money left to pay huge licenses, so other options need to be looked at. So to finish off, basically, there is concerns about open data and a digital divide. There's some nice examples. For example, we've had a lung surgeon from one of the hospitals in Dublin who's downloaded air quality data, correlated it with his patient records, and has found little patterns of his own. We've also had requests from school children who want data on why the tree in their school isn't growing. So 2 beautiful examples of how this can work. But we have to be careful that those children can download data as well as the people who are heavily IT skilled. And I'm just wondering, is a lot of the open data discourse assuming some kind of level of IT knowledge? So what about my dad or my neighbour who might want to get that data but is not used to complex forms or maps or something like that? So to finish off, the to-do list, the to-do list is to really understand the consumers, the use cases, and the future uses. We've got a really good feeling now, and it's taken us about 8 years to understand what our user group is. Linked data is a little bit inaccessible, so what I'd say to the linked data people is, if you could somehow do a linked data 101 that would be accessible to people who don't know XML very well, for example. VGI has to be looked at. It's as simple as that. There is problems with it, but for every problem there's a positive. And we need to stay proactive. We've gone away from presentations completely demoralised by the amount of anti-EPA, anti-open source, anti-open data. And it's a matter of just staying motivated there, not giving up, knowing that it's going to take a long time for those little acorns to grow into the big oaks, but it will be worth it in the end. So I'm finished there. Thank you.